All right, guys, super quick notes on the carbon and nitrogen cycle. Make sure you're taking notes on everything that is highlighted in yellow. And keep in mind the basic theme here is that everything on Earth happens in a cycle and nothing is created or destroyed. Basically, we are just saying that you are drinking dinosaur pee because matter cannot be created or destroyed. Everything that you take in, air molecules, anything you eat or drink has been somewhere before, maybe in a different form. These are some key points. I'm not going to go over them. This is what we're talking about in this lecture. So the carbon cycle is point number one. How do we get carbon into the atmosphere and then back out of the atmosphere? So when it's out of the atmosphere, it's inside an organism. So how do we get it out of the air? The most important process is what plants do, photosynthesis. We know they take in carbon dioxide. Right now, that is the best and only way to do this. Okay, so right now, plants are the only way to get carbon out of the atmosphere. Super important thing to remember. Water, so lakes, rivers, and oceans also absorb carbon from the atmosphere because gases actually dissolve in cold water. When we warm our planet and the water gets a little bit warmer, carbon dioxide is being released into our atmosphere. But while the water stays cold, it's a good way to hold gases in. Animals also, we are mostly made of carbon, so your body holds a lot of that carbon that your tissues are made out of. When you die, that goes back into the earth and it keeps that carbon out of the atmosphere. So here's a picture. You got this graph just to explains these cycles that we just talked about. Carbon is in the atmosphere. Plants absorb it with photosynthesis. Plants exhale it, and we breathe it in. Also, if we eat plants, we're eating that carbon. When plants die, or when anything dies, that becomes part of this matter underneath the ground, which turns into fossils. Sometimes bacteria will break down those fossils and release carbon back. But basically, the carbon cycle is just photosynthesis taking it in and animals using it. So they take in the carbon dioxide, we eat the carbon dioxide, and we breathe it back out for them. There are three ways that carbon goes into the air. So one way is our exhaling, the other way is bacteria releasing it, and the third way is burning fossil fuels. So please notice this, there's one way carbon gets out of the air, but there are three ways carbon goes back in. So right there, we can upset this nice cycle if we're not careful, which is the problem with burning fossil fuels. So why does that upset the carbon balance? If you look at this, here again is our normal carbon cycle, that photosynthesis happens, organisms breathe or they decompose, carbon goes into the ocean, it all works really nicely. So that's what's supposed to happen, current life, breathing, and dying. But if we take these fossil fuels that have been underground for forever and we burn them, this isn't part of normal life. This upsets that balance. So here's normal balance, but then we take carbon that was alive a long time ago that used to be part of the normal balance, and we upset our current atmospheric carbon cycle. So please remember, the best and right now the only way to get excess carbon dioxide out of the air is from plants. Here's a little video showing that, and let's click on it, see if we can make it happen.
Plants capture CO2. What if other kinds of plants capture it too?
Hang on just a second. Gotta get everything fired up again. So they are working, technology is working on ways of doing this, but for now it's only actual live plants to get carbon out. Okay, let's talk about the nitrogen cycle quickly. Nitrogen is only found in the air. Our atmosphere is actually 78% nitrogen, but we need nitrogen to live. It's one of those 6 elements that are necessary for living things. Right now, bacteria are the only organism that can take nitrogen out of the air, give it to us to use, and then put nitrogen back in the air. Please know this, it's not highlighted, but bacteria are the only organism that make the nitrogen cycle work. They are called nitrogen fixing bacteria. bacteria breathe in the nitrogen, they inhale it, they process it, and they basically tinkle it out into a form that plants can absorb. The only way plants can get nitrogen is when bacteria process it and excrete it, and then the plants absorb it in the water up their xylem, and they use it as a nutrient. Denitrifying bacteria are decomposers that break down organisms, release them back into the air so that we can breathe, or so that bacteria can use it again. So again, bacteria are the only things that do it. Here's a picture of these little nodules here are full of nitrogen-fixing bacteria to give nitrogen right away to this bean plant, actually. And here's the picture that was on your worksheet. Notice all the ways that nitrogen gets out of the air. It's actually only one. So bacteria takes it, makes it into a form that plants can use. Animals eat those plants. Now they have nitrogen in their body. Animals go potty. That puts nitrogen back in here. Your urine is full of nitrogen. Or bacteria break the nitrogen down and put it in the soil. Or plants and animals die. Nitrogen break them down, put it in the soil. So you have all this nitrogen in the soil, but the only way the nitrogen gets back into the air is bacteria. So really the only thing you need to know, bacteria take it out, bacteria put it back in. And it's the process from the bacteria that makes it usable for all of us. Okay, I'm going to show you a quick video of a mouse decomposing so you can see how nitrogen gets back into the soil, and it's just cool. This is all bacteria breaking down a mouse with some weird music. So I watched a skunk slowly decompose in our yard, and within a week he was gone. So that happens pretty quickly when bacteria break it down, but that's how they're helping to return all the nutrients in that little mouse body back to the soil. I don't know why this isn't clicking.